The Changeling episode 6 was just released yesterday on Friday, and I'm all caught up. I took my time with this season because there was just so many things going on. I wanted to make sure I got it right, and I think I got it up to this point anyway. So on this episode, we find out what happened to Emma after she attempted the murder on Apollo and disappeared into the dark city. We find out she went on a magical fairy tale foot race around and under the city, dressed like Clockwork Orange meets Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. It was wild. We first see Emma bust out the windows from her apartment and take to the fire escape after what we know as killing the Changeling in the crib that was there in place of her son. Now, us, the audience, noticed because in episode 3, the building super who was talking to Apollo told him he found the body of the boy and said a prayer. But when we see Emma look into the crib, she finds a tree sapling in place of where the baby would be. I totally understand where they are going with this, because in the show we see a poster of the baby on like the Changeling poster, and Brian has a maple leaf in his hand. And now we know that that symbolized that wherever he disappeared to, he possibly became a tree or is inside of a tree or reborn as a tree. And that's pretty much the journey that she goes on in this episode. Now, Emma was surprisingly nimble when she busted out the window, took to the fire escape, and flew around the back alley like a female Batman. I mean, she was really moving. She evaded the cops twice and swam the East River in a single breath. Now, look, don't underestimate the power of a mom, especially in a fairy tale. When she gets to the bottom of the fire escape, we see these mysterious phone texts. Now, they are from an unknown sender in what seems like to be William's voice. And thanks to the viewers in the comments on my last video, the top theory is that William is some sort of troll. Now, I don't know if they were being literal or figurative as far as him being an online troll, but they're saying he might be a troll. Let me know what you guys think. Now, during this season, I have not seen any info pointing to him being a troll other than, like I said, the online troll. But there is a Norwegian fairy tale about a troll in the story you all might be familiar with, which is the Three Billy Goats Gruff. Now, in this story, a troll named Trevor lives under a bridge and wants to eat the goats. The troll named Trevor, in older versions of the story, his greediness leads to his downfall. And the third goat, the largest of the three, eats the troll. And so the moral of the story being, never be greedy. Now, we don't know if this is what relates to William or whatever, but assuming that the unknown texts and pics were coming from the same person, William, they pretty much got her to this point. I mean, sending the anonymous pics in third person of Brian and the baby, and, you know, even of her out, and sort of added this mystery that she didn't know what was going on and really put her over the edge. This is what divided her and Apollo and what drove her to Cal in episode 4. However, it is on the text that gave her a riddle in this episode, and she's pretty much going around figuring out this riddle. Now, the one thing I realized about this was after she threw the phone down, she kind of glided away. Did y'all see that? She didn't walk. She kind of glided away. It was sort of like she was flying or something like that. It was a pretty cool effect, but I don't know how she did that at that moment. The next scene, she gets on a ferry at Pier 16, and guess who she meets? Her sister. We see her sister take the phone out and flash 3 times, literally under the bridge, and then receives 3 flashes back. Now, we don't know who they are at this moment, but she says, they're ready for you. And I knew it. I swear I knew it. I knew that her sister was a lot more involved than she seemed. She says to her on the boat, this is the only time we have to know if this is real or not, or if she's just like her mom. With the flashback in scenes 2 and 3, her mom snapping, and then even saying she can't let her burn for this, and then some sort of judo throw off the ferry, which was actually kind of impressive because I just wanted to point out, like, the sister threw her off the top level of the ferry over the cable railing and has to be far enough out away from the boat so Emma doesn't get sucked underneath and hit the propeller. So, I mean, I guess she was practicing for that, or maybe she's got some sort of fairy tale magic going on too. In reality, Emma could have died right there. She could have drowned, a whole bunch of stuff. But when she hits the water, we see this shift in direction, guessing which is where she kind of crossed over into this fairy tale land. And then later we see her on the island. So when Emma arrives on the island, we see her first meeting with Cal, and she asks, "What did you see after you did what we asked?" Of course, we don't find out what she was doing, but only can assume she was talking about the tree branch or talking about baby Brian or what happened after she got rid of the changeling. Now, Cal confirms Emma was not crazy and had been right all along that it wasn't a baby, which was a reoccurring theme we heard over and over again on the show. We do find out that she doesn't know where her child is, and Cal tells her that what she did was remove the torment and illusion of her child being there. Basically, assuming that the baby Brian she did have was just a shell and not really hers. And Emma says she feels him still there, assuming Earth and on this fairy tale plane. And so she feels like she can find him. In that same moment, we find out that even though Cal knows how to get rid of the changeling, her knowledge of or wisdom stops at the infant side, and that Cal and what Cal meant was that once she rid herself of the changeling, her second chance was just a second chance at life, and not to get her son back. And Emma just will not accept that. I can see this now because episode 3 and 4, when Apollo was asking if the same thing happened to all these women on the island, and Cal said yes, and that all the children that were there were the mother's other kids. And so at that moment, they couldn't find the kid that they lost. I didn't know that, but I know that now. So, of course, Emma feels like her baby is still alive, but Cal is telling her the only option is to start the healing process and join the community and get through the grief. In this scene, we see a shot of a rabbit, and it was kind of placed to get our attention as the viewers. And I kind of wonder what was up with that rabbit and if that was someone or something. I guess we'll find out later. But anyway, they lock her up, they let her calm down. And then we find out that none of the other women have found their children, which I would have never guessed. Because why would you tell somebody that their kid isn't theirs and to get rid of them if you didn't know how to get their real kid back? It seems like a scam and a very costly one because, I mean, they're all over the news. You know, Apollo's in jail. Like it becomes a tragic tale. But I'm guessing the way the story is going to go is going to have a happy ending. Let's keep our fingers crossed. We find out Cal wasn't joking about Emma being resilient and her drive and tenacity to get back to the city to find that maple sapling. She finds the boat on the east side of the island and very haphazardly rows back to New York City. I feel like it would have been easier if she just took that jacket off that she had. I mean, that cloak, and sort of, maybe carried it instead of it was really weighing her down. But anyway, as she's drowning, she finds strength in the voices of Apollo, which I actually find strange because, I mean, she literally kicked the crap out of him and basically ruined this man's life by ghosting him and leaving him with the grief and loss of his child and wife gone, especially with nobody believing him. But hey, whatever floats your boat, as they say. Once she gets back to the island, she makes it back to the library. She grabs some books to take back to the island. She sees herself on the news explaining, the horrible situation, and goes back to her old job. When she gets back to the island, she says, "Hey, here's the books I promised. I need to go back." And then this time, Cal, understanding that she's more sensible and reasonable, offers her help and hooks her up with the mole man. She enters the tunnel under the bridge, and reality shifts again, where she's climbing down, but looks like she's upside down and backwards. And she meets her guide, and her guide is gives her a tour of the As Above, So Below, which is pretty much the mole manor underneath the New York City. And they got a solid establishment down there, right? I mean, they got a lot of stuff going on. And he takes her to the A train on 181st Street and tells her he'll be waiting there for her return. She gets to the library, looks up the tree map, and almost gets caught by the cops because we find out that at the same time she's in there was when Apollo went into the library with the shotgun looking for her, but he didn't see her. And that is a real coincidence. Like, what is it? He could have went in there any day, but he ended up going in there that day, which was actually the same time she was there. Like, he was really close. But I guess, like Cal said when she was talking to Emma, only way to find where they were, you would have to be some sort of a god. And taking in consideration, we're dealing with the god Apollo. So kudos for him for not giving up. And honestly, that is a big factor about life. Sometimes you just have to keep going and not give up. And I'm really proud to see Apollo, or just a man, and then on top of that, a black man, really just fighting for his kids and really trying to go by his instincts and get what he lost back, because it take a lot from us. After she gets the tree map, she ducks on two cops, gets back to Wheels, and they make an escape on what I would say was the most mildest chase ever. I understand the cops didn't want to go any more further into the tunnels, but they could have caught her on that little power wheel or big wheel. They could have caught her on that little big wheel or whatever they was on there. I mean, it wasn't like it was a motorcycle going 50 miles per hour. I mean, they were going real slow. But anyway, they get away. They're back underneath the subway and they're having tea, it looks like. And Wheels shows her on the map where Little Norway used to be in Forest Hill, Queens, giving her a great direction to continue her search and really narrowing it down. And at the end of the episode, we find out that Brian is in the forest. So that's where she's going to look to. I mean, we finally got some answers, and I think that was great because we were all wondering, like, where was Emma? And there's been other shows that I won't mention, but I'm sure y'all know. They really don't give us no answers, and it's been like 2 seasons, coming up on a third, and we really just want to know what's going on. I'm really liking the Changeling. I'm really liking the cast. I like the acting. And I like where the story's going so far. It is definitely a big mystery. I'm still spending time on episodes 3 and 4, trying to figure out what was going on with this William guy and what direction he might be. And we've got some good information that I might do some videos on later. But that's what we got so far for episode 6. I really appreciate you guys for taking the time to watch my videos. And as always, let's talk in the comments.